Darth Revan is one of the most fascinating and complex characters in the Star Wars universe. His story, which unfolds through various mediums, most notably the Knights of the Old Republic video games, has garnered a massive following. However, despite his immense popularity, Revan has not yet received the full attention he deserves on the big screen. It's time for Revan to have his own trilogy, one that delves into his complex history, his internal struggle, and the tremendous impact he had on the galaxy. The potential for a Darth Revan trilogy goes beyond simply exploring the lore and world-building of the Star Wars universe. Revan's story, especially his transformation from Jedi Knight to Sith Lord and back again, offers a compelling narrative about identity, redemption, and the consequences of one's choices. His journey reflects the eternal struggle between the light and dark sides of the Force, but it is done in a way that stands apart from the stories of other characters in the franchise, including those of Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker. First and foremost, the complexity of Revan's character provides a goldmine of material for storytelling. Unlike most Sith Lords, Revan's motivations are not rooted in pure malice or thirst for power. He was once a Jedi Knight, revered for his tactical brilliance and deep sense of justice. However, a series of catastrophic events led him down a darker path, where he became the Sith Lord known as Darth Revan. Unlike the common Sith trope of seeking ultimate power, Revan's descent into darkness was born out of a desire to protect the galaxy from what he perceived as an impending threat. His transition to the dark side was a complicated one, driven by a sense of duty rather than a lust for control. A trilogy focused on Revan could explore the nuances of this transformation, showing how a person can go from being a hero to a villain, and how circumstances can shape one's identity. The first movie could focus on Revan's time as a Jedi, showcasing his leadership in the Mandalorian Wars and his early struggles with the ideals of the Jedi Order. It would be a fresh take on the role of the Jedi, illustrating the internal conflicts of someone who seeks to do good but feels constrained by dogma. This exploration of the Jedi Order's flaws and the tension between following the code and doing what is necessary for the greater good would create an engaging narrative that ties into current criticisms of institutionalism and bureaucracy, making the story resonate with modern audiences. As the trilogy progresses, we would witness Revan's fall to the dark side. The second movie would cover his time as Darth Revan, where his character would be shaped by the choices he made. The focus would shift to his leadership of the Sith Empire and his struggle to maintain control over his own mind as the Sith influence begins to overwhelm him. Revan's duality, his lingering connection to his Jedi past and his growing corruption as a Sith would be a key theme. It's this internal conflict that sets Revan apart from other Sith Lords like Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine. Revan isn't simply evil. He is someone trying to navigate the complexities of war, duty, and morality in a galaxy filled with chaos. His time as a Sith Lord is not merely about conquering the galaxy. Revan believed that he could use the power of the dark side to achieve a greater good, to unite the galaxy against a greater threat, an existential one that he believed the Jedi and the Republic were too blind to see. This aspect of Revan's character makes him far more relatable than the usual evil for the sake of evil characters in Star Wars. His motivations are born from love, protection, and duty, but they become corrupted by his pursuit of absolute power. This tragic downfall makes him a character that audiences can understand, even if they don't condone his actions. Revan's return to the light in the final movie of the trilogy would be an emotional and hard-fought battle. His redemption arc is not about simply rejecting the dark side, but about confronting the consequences of his past actions. The final film would focus on Revan's quest to regain his memories and seek redemption for the horrors he committed while under the influence of the dark side. His struggle would not only be external, as he faces off against enemies both new and old, but also deeply internal, as he must come to terms with his past and the destruction he caused. This would be a storyline of personal growth and redemption, as Revan seeks to right the wrongs he committed and find peace within himself. The trilogy would also explore the relationships Revan had with those around him, particularly with his companions. The Knights of the Old Republic games offered rich character interactions, and translating these bonds to the big screen would add emotional depth to the narrative. Characters like Bastila Shan, T3, M4, and Cartho Nasai could all play pivotal roles in the trilogy, each offering different perspectives on Revan's journey. Bastila's connection to Revan, both as a romantic interest and as a fellow Jedi, would provide a personal touch to the story, showing how love and loyalty can help guide someone back from the brink of darkness. T3-M4, despite being a droid, could offer comic relief and an unexpected emotional resonance, while Karth's sense of betrayal and unresolved feelings would add dramatic tension to Revan's internal struggles. Another aspect that makes Revan's story so appealing is its connection to the greater Star Wars universe. The events of Revan's story take place thousands of years before the films, and his actions have long-lasting consequences on the galaxy. A trilogy about Revan would offer a unique opportunity to explore the ancient history of the Star Wars universe, something that has largely been unexplored in the films. The politics of the Old Republic, the rise and fall of the Sith, and the ancient Jedi traditions could all be explored in rich detail, providing a refreshing change of pace from the more familiar stories of the Empire and the Rebel Alliance. The visual elements of a Darth Revan trilogy would also be spectacular. The Mandalorian Wars, the epic battles between the Sith and the Jedi, the ancient temples, and the breathtaking landscapes of Coruscant and other planets would offer opportunities for stunning visuals and world building. Revan himself, with his iconic mask and dark, mysterious persona, would make for an intriguing and visually striking protagonist. His dual identity, Jedi Knight and Sith Lord, could be represented in his clothing, weaponry, and overall appearance, creating a striking contrast that reflects his internal struggle. In conclusion, a Darth Revan trilogy would not only fill in a crucial gap in the Star Wars saga, but would also introduce a morally complex and deeply relatable character to a wider audience. Revan's story is one of redemption, internal conflict, and the gray areas between light and dark, making it an excellent candidate for exploration on the big screen. His transformation from Jedi to Sith and back again offers a narrative that stands apart from the traditional Star Wars stories, one that delves into the complexities of the human soul and the impact of one's choices. Given the rich history, compelling characters, and thematic depth of Revan's journey, a trilogy dedicated to his story could stand as one of the most memorable and impactful additions to the Star Wars franchise. Darth Revan's own trilogy would undoubtedly be a game-changer for the Star Wars franchise, surpassing anything Disney has created since acquiring the rights to Star Wars. While the Disney-era films have received mixed responses, with some feeling disconnected from the core essence of the original saga, a Revan trilogy has the potential to return Star Wars to its roots while also pushing it into new, unexplored territory. Revan's story, rich with complexity, depth, and emotional resonance, stands as an untapped goldmine in the Star Wars universe, one that, if executed well, could surpass any of Disney's attempts at reinvigorating the franchise. The first reason a Revan trilogy could dwarf Disney's efforts lies in the character of Revan himself. Unlike many of the new characters introduced in Disney's sequels, Revan is already beloved by Star Wars fans. He is a character with a detailed backstory, a rich inner life, and a narrative that has been built up over decades in the Knights of the Old Republic games and other expanded universe materials. Revan is not just another hero or villain. He is a tragic figure whose story spans across both light and dark sides of the Force. In contrast, the new trilogy introduced by Disney struggled with creating compelling, fully fleshed-out characters that felt integral to the Star Wars mythos. Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren were often seen as one-dimensional, their motivations and arcs feeling inconsistent or forced. A Revan trilogy would sidestep these issues, as Revan's complexity and depth have already been established through his journey in the Old Republic, allowing the films to dive deeper into his inner conflict and character development. Additionally, the narrative possibilities of a Revan trilogy would far outstrip the convoluted and often incoherent plotlines in the Disney trilogy. The rise and fall of Revan as a Jedi Knight turned Sith Lord, and his eventual path to redemption, offers a narrative with far more emotional depth than the stories presented in The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. The Disney trilogy faltered in its inability to maintain a coherent through line or deliver a satisfying arc for its central characters, especially the trilogy's protagonist, Rey. Her identity was never clearly defined, and the twist that she was a Palpatine felt like a cheap way to tie her story into the established Star Wars lore. A Revan trilogy, on the other hand, would focus on a well-defined character who begins his journey as a respected Jedi, is corrupted by his own actions and ultimately seeks redemption. This story would have an emotional weight that Disney's films simply did not deliver. Furthermore, the themes of Revan's story are far more in tune with what Star Wars fans have come to expect from the saga. Revan's journey is one of personal struggle and transformation. His fall to darkness is not an inevitable result of a craving for power, but rather a tragic consequence of trying to do what he thought was right. This is a theme that resonates deeply within the Star Wars universe, especially considering the origins of characters like Anakin Skywalker. The Disney trilogy, however, lost this thematic resonance in favor of spectacle, with The Last Jedi in particular losing much of the thematic consistency of the earlier films. A Revan trilogy could tap into the core Star Wars themes of redemption, sacrifice, and the fight between light and dark, while offering a fresh perspective on them through Revan's complex relationship with the Force. Moreover, the setting and time period of the Revan trilogy would be a major strength, particularly in comparison to the sequels. The Star Wars galaxy at the time of Revan's story is vastly different from the one in which Rey and Kylo Ren reside. The Old Republic era allows for the exploration of ancient civilizations, long-forgotten Sith Lords, and Jedi philosophies that have long since been discarded or distorted. This untapped period in Star Wars history would allow for fresh and exciting visuals, locations, and concepts, all of which would feel distinct from what we've already seen in the Disney trilogy. The focus on the Mandalorian Wars, the Sith Empire, and the grandeur of the Old Republic would provide a welcome change from the well-worn tropes of the Galactic Empire and the Resistance, offering something truly new and thrilling for fans. In addition, the inclusion of iconic characters from the Knights of the Old Republic video game, such as Bastila Shan, Cartho Nasai, and even the enigmatic character of -47 Hong Kong dollars, would add further layers to the story. These characters already have established fan bases, and their interactions with Revan could create a dynamic that would surpass anything Disney has produced in terms of emotional depth. The companion-driven narrative that made Knights of the Old Republic so beloved could be translated into the trilogy, allowing for a multifaceted exploration of Revan's relationships and his struggle with the consequences of his actions. Unlike Disney's sequels, which often felt like they were trying too hard to introduce new characters without sufficient development, a Revan trilogy would capitalize on the emotional resonance of its established characters, creating a deeper connection between the audience and the story. In terms of world building, the Old Republic era offers far more freedom for creative exploration than the relatively familiar Galactic Empire and Republic settings that dominate the Disney-era films. The galaxy Revan inhabits is far more diverse, populated by distinct species, cultures, and political systems, allowing for a rich tapestry of storytelling that feels both epic and personal. We could see the intricate politics of the Republic, the corruption within the Jedi Council, and the devastating effects of the Mandalorian Wars. These elements of Star Wars lore would be given the space to breathe and be explored in detail, offering fans a deeper understanding of the galaxy far, far away. In contrast, the Disney trilogy struggled with world building, often relying on visual spectacle without offering much substance in terms of the lore of the galaxy. The visual elements of a Darth Revan trilogy would also outshine anything Disney has done in recent years. The Sith Lords of the Old Republic are visually distinct and powerful, and Revan's iconic mask and robes would translate perfectly onto the big screen. The massive space battles, the epic lightsaber duels, and the vast landscapes of planets like Coruscant and Tatooine would all offer an opportunity for breathtaking visuals that have not been fully realized in the current Star Wars films. The advanced technology of the Old Republic, the ancient architecture, and the deep mysteries surrounding the Force would all contribute to a visually rich cinematic experience that would captivate audiences. In short, a Darth Revan trilogy would offer everything that the Disney-era Star Wars films have failed to deliver. Compelling characters, a coherent and emotionally resonant story, a fresh setting with rich world building, and a return to the core themes that made the original trilogy and Knights of the Old Republic so beloved. It would have the potential to surpass anything Disney has created by tapping into the untapped potential of Revan's story, a narrative that has long been a favorite among fans. Given the depth of Revan's character and the wealth of untold stories within the Old Republic era, a trilogy centered around him would not only satisfy longtime fans but also captivate a new generation of Star Wars lovers. It would be a monumental achievement, one that could define the future of Star Wars storytelling for years to come.